Hello, everyone. My name is John Wu, and I'm a rising sophomore attending high school in Massachusetts. Today, I'll be introducing Chapter 11 of Professor Jeffrey Sachs' book, The Age of Sustainable Development. Now, the 11th chapter is named Resilient Cities, but before I dig into the chapter itself, I'll first brush upon the Sustainable Development Goal that's related to it. For those of you who aren't familiar with what the Sustainable Development Goals are, they're a collection of 17 goals announced in 2015 by the United Nations General Assembly. The SDGs replaced the Millennium Development Goals. Resilient cities tie directly into SDG 11, which reads, make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. The goal is also known as sustainable cities. It aims to target the numerous problems that city dwellers face, such as air pollution, low living standards in slums, high waste production, and lack of public infrastructure. Now, with that background, let's divulge into the chapter itself. The chapter consists of 5 sections: the patterns of urbanization around the world, what makes a city sustainable, green, and resilient, smart infrastructure, urban resilience, and planning sustainable development. We'll be talking mostly about the first 2 topics for the purposes of this video, but I'll cover each of the topics briefly. You can also check out more information on the 3 other topics not extensively covered in the companion guide. The section on smart infrastructure emphasizes the importance of cities implementing public infrastructure that will properly manage the energy, transportation, water, and waste management needs of its inhabitants. Urban resilience touches upon the importance of preparing cities for the growing effects of human-induced climate change. As we enter the era of Anthropocene, or more optimistically, the age of sustainable development, it is important for cities to brace for the impact of inevitable extreme weather events. The final section, Planning Sustainable Development, brushes upon the importance of sustainable development throughout the world and how different cities are leading the charge to become more sustainable. Now, I'll first cover the patterns of urbanization and then go on to talk about what makes a city sustainable and resilient. Let's divulge into the patterns of urbanization. Society, and in turn the concept of cities, began with the discovery and development of sedentary agriculture. But cities began to exponentially grow due to the advancements made in the 18th century and the Industrial Revolution. This led to better farming practices, better access to soil nutrients, and better transport conditions. These technological breakthroughs meant that farmers were able to increase production, meaning that one farmer was able to support a much larger population who lived in cities and did not produce crops. Since fewer farmers were necessary, naturally more and more people moved to cities. Taking a look at historical precedent, Europe's average urbanization rate in the 1800s was at 10.9%, a number that is far under the modern-day 50% global urbanization rate. Britain and Netherlands in the 1800s were at 19.2% and 37.4% respectively. By the turn of the century, Europe had reached an urbanization rate of 33%, while Britain and the Netherlands had just surpassed 50%. In 2008, for the first time in human history, more than 50% of the world's population lived in cities instead of rural areas. Now, other than developments made during the Industrial Revolutions, there are a few indirect reasons cities were able to grow to the size they are today and will continue to grow. One of them is that agriculture has property distinctive compared to industry and services. Demand for agriculture does not rise in proportion to income. Consumption of food does not rise at the same rate GDP does. To put this into perspective, a person who is 10 times richer will not eat 10 times as much. This phenomenon is due to the fact that food is a necessity, not a luxury good. Contrastingly, something that's a luxury good means that the demand for it grows faster than the GDP. Another reason cities grow so well is that countries grow more prosperous. And as the standard of living increases, a country becomes more urbanized. This is because economic development is directly linked to urbanization. A World Bank study conducted in 2014 shows that in 2011, there were practically no countries whose PPP, purchasing power parity, exceeding $40,000, had an urbanization rate of less than 60%. As the GDPs of numerous emerging countries further grow, the world will continue to become more and more urbanized. For these reasons, if the world economy continues to grow at the rate it is today and rural productivity increases, the world's urban areas are expected to continue growing while rural populations will plateau. The UN forecasts that by 2050, 67% of the world's population will live in urban areas. But as the global distribution of the economy shifts as we progress into the future, the global distribution of urbanization will shift as well. As the world economy and population slowly shift towards Asia, the era of Western city dominance may as well be ending. Now, how are cities unique from past settlements? Cities are unique for 10 reasons. They are 1, a high concentration of population, 2, distinguished by the kind of economic activity they host, 3, relatively high productive areas of the national economy since they are centers of trade and commerce, 4, the locus of tremendous amounts of innovative activity since there are universities and research facilities, 5, trading centers, 6, generally coastal, 7, places of rapid population growth, 8, often places of glaring inequality, 9, enjoying numerous advantages of economies of scale since so many people are living there, and 10, facing significant challenges of urban extremities, such as economic disparity. Cities have the promise of being the future of humanity, but also hide flaws that might seriously hinder progress. Now we have discovered the trends of urbanization throughout history and the driving factors behind it. Let's take a dive into how cities can become resilient and sustainable. Sustainable cities should check 3 criteria. They must be 1, economically productive, 2, be socially and politically inclusive, and 3, be environmentally sustainable. Foremost, for economic productivity, the basis for success is infrastructure, such as a network of roads, public transport, power, connectivity, water, sewage, and waste flows. Infrastructure should also include systems such as an effective court system or political infrastructure. There must also be a streamlined flow of work being done for cities to be productive. Furthermore, cities should be places of high social mobility and aim to establish social stability. Yet with ineffective planning, cities can become deeply divided on economic lines. It is important that cities have social safety nets that prevent wealth disparity from being prevalent. Although this problem is most serious in less economically developed countries such as Brazil with the case of Rio de Janeiro or in India with the case of Mumbai, even in more economically developed countries such as the United States with the case of New York City, there is still a significant wealth disparity between the poorest and richest sectors of the city. Moreover, for environmental sustainability, since cities are places of high population, they are vulnerable to environmental challenges. Cities must mitigate and decrease their own impact on the climate while adapting to the effects of climate change. Population density, namely the concentration of population per unit of land, is extremely important in determining a city's environmental impact. More densely packed cities, such as New York City, tend to have lower carbon dioxide (CO2) emission rates than cities with urban sprawl, such as Los Angeles and Atlanta. This is because the use of transportation. While 36% of commutes in NYC are by walking and public transport, LA and Atlanta have public transportation usage rates of 8% and 5% only, respectively. If cities are more cognizant of the energy and transport systems they implement, paired with the encouragement of higher density settlements, their ecological footprint can be drastically reduced. By tightly packing communities, urban cities can become centers of environmental sustainability rather than hubs of pollution. Cities now house more than half of the living population and will continue to grow in population share. Although numerous problems, such as but not limited to urban sprawl, pollution, overpopulation, and lack of public infrastructure exist, they hold the key to a sustainable future. With higher population density, increased utilization of technology, and widespread implementation of public transport, cities can become a vital puzzle piece in forming a clean, sustainable, and fair future that the UN envisions with the SDGs. The takeaway is that to get the best of what cities offer, we have to look at how cities invest in the infrastructure and what choices they make. With this video, I hope you've gotten a good sense of what the different dimensions and possibilities are being used to move forward to resilient and sustainable cities. Cities are our future, so planning resilient and sustainable cities means we are planning a resilient and sustainable future. Thank you.